Well, hello.
Hi.
All right, so if you want to talk about movies this week, you're going to have to talk about my movies because I have no interest in yours.
What do you mean? I saw something that's out. That's
This is the
that's
dangerous
new.
part. I'll just talk over you. All right, so we got Super Mario Brothers, we got Scream 6, and we got Sharper.
Sharper. I also watched Ghosted.
Do you even know what Sharper is?
I do not. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. I guess we'll do what have we been watching lately, number 42?
42.
Wow, okay, we got it right this week.
Yeah.
I was excited to see 2 out of 3 of my movies. We'll call these the new releases this week. Scream 6 and the Super Mario Brothers movie. I didn't know anything about Sharper. I just wanted to add another new release to my first time watch list for this episode and for the year. I'm trying to watch a lot more new movies this year instead of mostly classic or older movies, just to expand my horizon.
Yeah.
Something that I don't think you're doing that much of.
It's funny. It's a mixture of both. I mean, to be honest, if I always talk about on the podcast, if it's the late night movie, I'm watching something that I know I've already watched. So that way, if I fall asleep, I don't feel guilty.
You know, there's this weird thing called rewind and also the start over button. Yeah, and you're also old enough to know you can always rewatch something.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I want it to hit me right in the face, the first viewing experience. But I will do a better job. I would, because I got my little notebook. I'm writing down all the movies. Like, all right, I'm seeing the patterns.
Hitting you in the face is like dead on to what I was thinking.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
What is this? Wile E. Coyote and fucking Roadrunner?
It is. It's like I'm the Roadrunner of thought, and you are trying to keep up with me.
Is that what this is?
I mean, I'm guessing because you can never keep up with me, so you keep blowing yourself up with an Acme rocket.
No, man. This is more like a soft jog.
All right, so we're covering. I'm covering 3. You're covering. I don't care.
Ghosted.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you saw that.
Yeah. And Super Mario Brothers. We watched that. We can talk about that together.
We can start with that, I guess, unless you want to start with Ghosted. I mean, what's the newest movie of the 3 that I have and yours?
Let's see. So Ghosted came out last week. Super Mario Brothers.
Ghosted came out last week. Okay. Well, you can start with Ghosted. I'm not opposed to that unless you want this, the show to start off sucking.
Okay. Well, here we go. Ghosted it is. So it just came out last week on Apple TV Plus or Apple TV, whatever you want to call it. And it's a light
dynamic reporting.
It's like a lighthearted romantic action comedy that stars Ana de Armas, or Armas, however you pronounce that, and Chris Evans.
That one's not hard. I don't understand how you butchered that name.
Or if you pronounce the S or not. That was a good question. You got
Study
my head about that.
Culture.
And Chris Evans plays...
He even fucked his name up.
Chris Evans plays a writer that had to go back to the farmland to help out his family be a farmer. And Ana de Armas is trying to... she's lonely. She's trying to reconnect with herself, and she stumbles upon Chris Evans at the farmer's market. They have a nice night. You can imagine how that ends. And then she starts ghosting him, because Chris Evans keeps texting her and doesn't hear anything back. He thought they shared a wonderful evening. So he puts a tracker on everything. So he tracked his inhaler, and it was in London. So he's like, I'm going to fly to London and find the love of my life. And it turns out she flew to London because she's a CIA operative.
And he's not?
No, he's just a farmer.
Okay, see, this is
he's a smart farmer.
10,000 to 1. I did not think this movie was about this. If anything, I thought it was like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they're both at each other and they're both secret agents. But somehow I'm guessing that Chris Evans can handle himself with a gun in this movie when he finds out she's a secret agent.
He learns a little bit along the way from Ana de Armas, but he can fight. Like fist fight, but he's not a special agent. She's the what's known in the terrorist community as the tax man.
Okay, so that also brings up a good point. Men don't fight anymore. It's not like it's why I don't like fight scenes anymore, because if you look at the general population of men walking around, you don't see fights anymore. Everybody's just using their words.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like I want there to be fights again, but you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't ring true that men are just getting in fights with each other, and men don't know how to fight, I think is the biggest thing.
Right.
Men don't know how to fight.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, they explain, being a rugged farmer, working with your hands. But
A
he's also,
rugged farmer?
But he also is an intellectual because he's a writer, but he didn't finish his book because he had to go back home to the farm.
I mean, you already illustrated that like disgustingly when you said he had to go back to his farm to be a farmer. I mean, if that's just about the worst written sentence I've ever come across. And I've read some pretty shitty sentences.
Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the rest of the movie. And it's like it's the new action, a romantic action comedy.
I thought you were going to say White Meat, which was interesting. I think that would have been a really interesting review. It's the new White Meat.
The traditional gender roles of the damsel in distress with the James Bond.
She's not in distress.
No, I'm saying the reversal of the roles is quite refreshing in that because Anna de Armas is fucking. I will give her that. She can kick major ass.
I mean, you just said she's fucking. what does that mean?
That's what they say in the streets.
I mean,
these days.
you kind of described it. They do that in the movies, so maybe
yeah. But it's because it's like it's romantic comedy mixed with the every once in a while they have these action sequences because of course Chris Evans gets swept up in the whole mission she's on in London for anyway.
Like I said,
and he's trying to get to that cold heart, and she wonders why she's lonely, but maybe it's her job occupation being a fucking spy. You know, that's the one thing I always like. You're a fucking regardless who you are. Like if you're a spy or anything, it's like I'm lonely. Like no shit, you chose to be a spy.
That's your biggest problem. I was going to say maybe she has a hot heart and he's trying to cool it instead of she having a cold heart and he's trying to heat it.
No, the mission always comes first.
Cold heart. Hank Williams.
Yeah. But yeah. So
okay. So it's a typical movie with the typical premise, just kind of switched in reverse. But you know what? It would be better in this movie is if he was not Chris Evans and he didn't know what he was doing with a gun or fighting or anything, and he literally was along for the ride like, what the fuck am I doing? But there's something tells me that wouldn't be in his contract.
Right. He's like, I can only look like a wimp in the beginning a little bit of this movie.
It reminds me of I listened to the Entourage podcast for a little while. And there were, do you remember the show?
Yeah, I remember the show.
You remember every episode of the show?
Most episodes.
Okay. Do you remember the episode when Seth Green comes on and then gets in a fight with his crew versus Vinny's crew?
Yeah, in the hallway?
No, in the casino.
Oh, in the casino. Yeah, because never mind, I was thinking of the Marky Mark.
So because of the reputation of those guys that created the show, which they're kind of like macho guys, they're always like fucking with each other, like New Yorker kind of guys,
Right.
But large egos on that set, it seems like. And of course there was the debate on there between what's E's name? Kevin Conley and Seth Green, who came on, and they're like, well, I don't want to lose the fight. Well, I don't want to lose the fight either. And so that's a real thing. It was like a general discussion, like, no, it's my show. You're coming on here, and I'm not losing a fight on my show. Versus the other side was like, yeah, you asked me to do the show. I'm not coming on here and losing a fight when you asked me to do the show. So that is a little insight into Hollywood, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
These things do happen. And I'm ghosted. I would imagine Chris Evans is never going to look like a weak person in any movie he's ever going to do again post Captain America. Because even when he was in Not Another Team movie, remember that way back in the day?
Oh yeah, that's right. He was like the football.
He was a football guy, but he made himself look kind of foolish, and that was kind of the last time I think if you chart his filmography, he ever did that to himself. I'm guessing.
Yeah, because and then in Scott Pilgrim, he was a evil,
still looked amazing and then acted amazing. Even though he lost, he still was a badass. I mean, there's just certain character actors. I wouldn't consider him a character actor at all, and that that's a question Tarantino brought up. He was saying that there are no movie stars anymore. It's just the roles are more famous than they are, like Captain America and Iron Man and those kind of movies. It's people go see them for it's Iron Man. They don't go see it for Chris Evans or for Robert Downey Jr. anymore.
Yeah, it's the character.
You think so?
Well, I mean, or there could be some protest because like Timothy Chalamet playing Willy Wonka, you can't replace some original pioneers for the role.
So what you're saying is you bend like metal. Where does the wind take me on any point? Because I don't want to come down on the wrong side.
No, I think,
grow a pair.
I think the characters end with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans.
And I didn't say of what.
You know, but yeah, hopefully Chris transitions more into, some more acting roles.
I don't know how we got off of the movie so completely because my points were all valid and good and yours are just boring me. So was the movie good or not? Ghosted.
I think it'd be a fun watch in an afternoon, like you just put it on. Like
you watched it in the afternoon. Was it a fun watch?
No, I watched it at night. I watched it last night.
It would be a fun watch in the afternoon because you could ignore it more.
I think it's, it's a good, like, hey, you're a date movie. You're like, hey, let's watch this, a little bit something for everybody. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so your prediction that it was going to fall flat on its face and be a waste of time did not come true.
Right, there was still some redeeming quality. It was still, it wasn't that bad. The guy who directed it, Dexter Fletcher. Yeah. I loved him, I loved his work with Rocket Man, and of course his character in Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. So it was with an artistic hand.
Is that the nice way of saying it? No, I too, I loved Rocket Man. I thought it was one of the best movies of 2019. So that's a game changer for this. And it also leads me to the next movie because, I guess we could talk about Sharper let's save Sharper for the end. Okay. There's no segue here.
Okay, cool.
It's the Super Mario Brothers movie. Let's just talk about it.
Let's get it out of the way.
I wanted to start with it because I think it's the one that people wanted us to start with in the podcast because it's probably the most moneymaker of this year so far, I would guess, right?
I think so. I think it's smashing every record.
I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that this was going to be a huge, massive success because it's Mario and it's animated.
Right.
Famously, this was done before. This franchise was done before, but totally live action. And
which, it has a soft spot in my heart. And it's not the best, but,
It's 1993, and it's starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. And it's a toss-up on which one I like better.
Okay, there you go.
I'm not of the ilk where I can't watch the original Super Mario Brothers movie from 93. I think there's some redeemable qualities to it. It is live action, and it is a mess also. But Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo and Dennis Hopper.
And they did. It's a tall order making it a live action movie coming from video game fame.
And somebody had to make weird choices, like the fungus around used to be the king, and that's why there's mushrooms, and the fungus is helping out Mario and company because it gets to bounce off it and save it from falling off cliffs and cars. Okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, how else were you going to do this movie in 1993 live action?
Right, make it cartoonish in the movie magic way.
Yeah, so you had to take some really, really big swings, and they did. And you know what? Right on. It was 1993, for God's sake. And I saw it, and I remember seeing it and liking it when I was a kid, and then going to the lunchroom and saying how much I liked it. And you know what? I thought of immediately. I knew it wasn't that good because everybody in the lunchroom wasn't saying it was that good.
Yeah.
And when kids aren't like raving about the Super Mario Brothers movie that just came out, you're in trouble.
Right. They're like, I want a Mario Kart,
I have no idea what you mean.
Well, I think that was right. I actually know.
Is it like a diet soda or something?
Mario Kart. And that was like the resurgence of Mario. Remember? Like Mario Kart came out and everyone fucking played Mario Kart.
Well, I remember playing Mario Kart, but I played Mario forever.
Me too.
It wasn't a resurgence. Mario has been a constant in my life forever.
That's so beautiful. That is so
Which leads us to the new movie. All right, 2023 is the Super Mario Brothers movie starring Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, who's in everything, and Charlie Day.
Yeah.
I've said it before to friends, and I'll say it to you again. I think it's Anya Taylor-Joy. She is in everything lately. She's like the new it girl actress, but without the celebrity it. She's just in everything.
Right. Yeah. Well, good on her.
I do the same thing.
Ride that pony until it fucking bucks you.
Yeah. Use it while you can. Absolutely. The biggest thing that strikes me about this movie is that it's animated. And nowadays, you have to explain this term to me, Andy, because there's a lot. It's one of the reviews I read was there's a lot of meta jokes in it. Now, what the fuck does that mean? Like jokes that are like in jokes of the world, like tongue-in-cheek jokes about the universe?
It's like the jokes about, you know, virtual reality and the meta worlds everyone's trying to create now, like with fucking Facebook and Meta, like everything's virtual.
I don't think you know, so I think you're pulling that so far out of your ass. You could wear it as a hat. So we'll move on.
Yeah, Meta.
So immediately what I know is I'm very excited for this movie because I love Super Mario Brothers, like it seems everybody does. I played it forever, but there was a certain point where I stopped playing the new ones. And I think the last iteration of it was probably Super Mario Brothers 64. That's the last one I really played.
Yeah.
Was it around the time like Mario Kart came out on the N64?
So I think it's the early 90s. So Mario Kart came out in
I don't think it was the early 90s.
92 Mario Kart.
N64 was definitely not the early 90s, Andy. Why are you challenging me with Googling and silence right now?
98 was 96.
Thank you. 96. That's not the early 90s.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, so the last time I played this game series was, you know, circa the late 90s, not the early 90s, like some ignorant people would say. So I didn't worry that they were going to include new mythology in this one to the degree that they did, apparently. So I was lost on a lot of the references and a lot of the not jokes, but the inclusion of certain worldly objects to the Mario universe way more than I thought I was prepared for.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of was like, oh, that was like the Super Mario Brothers movie, but for the new, like a little dusting of the old fans of it, but really appealing to more children and a newer audience to it. Like they're trying to sell it to somebody else, and they knew they were just going to get us nostalgia fans.
Right, yeah, trying to get the parents something because they're taking their kids, but just give them that little bit and market the hell out of the little bastards.
For the most part, I really did enjoy the movie. It was fun, and you know the take on the characters were, you know, who you think they would be if you gave them dialogue out of the gaming console milieu. You know, it's just, I think what the film suffers from is the humor of it. And I think that's actually what the meta humor is. I'm guessing that's what it is. When you're making a joke about the universe as if that's what you have to do to get the funny out of these characters in this reality. Like Donkey Kong saying, well, all I do is throw barrels and I have to save this person because I have to. And everybody laughs because he's making a joke about what we all know about Donkey Kong, but he's aware of the history of his character, and that's the joke he's making a reference to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I think that's what the movie suffers from too much of. It's the meta jokes are... They stop and pause too much for their own self-righteousness instead of pushing the story forward. And I don't need a joke about who Mario is and Peach is and Donkey Kong is and Toad is, because I know already. And they pause for each one of these characters multiple times to kind of poke fun at how crazy this all is and the mythology of all these characters, instead of just pushing forward. And it's kind of like we always say, like, the bad parts of screenwriting are when the villain is telling you exactly what's going on in the movie or what he's about to do. That's kind of like meta jokes for me. And it just bothers me because this has nothing to do with the plot. This has everything to do with, oh, you guys know we're in the Mario Brothers movie.
Right.
It's
we're in this world.
Yeah, and I couldn't get over that enough in the movie to ultimately dig it. But, you know, I still appreciated the shit of the way it looked and the realities that they created. I mean, the artistry of it is brilliant. And even the with Chris Pratt getting so much shit about the voice characterization he chose, I didn't think he was not doing an Italian accent. You know, it just wasn't.
It was a New Yorker.
It wasn't over the top. You know, it wasn't over the top Italian, like the stereotype Italian that Mario represented in all the games.
And they paid it off with the whole beginning with the commercial.
Yeah, and I was appreciative of that. But that's why I just don't understand, like, criticism in that. You know, it's like remember the Sonic movie, Sonic the Hedgehog, where everybody they famously like redubbed the voice because of how pissed off fans were. God, yeah. I mean, man, if you get on the internet and you can do that and you give in, you are really relinquishing control of your artistry to the mob, basically.
For sales.
And
Just
it
for
really is for
revenue.
sales, because all those people, they think they wouldn't go see it, and I promise you they still would.
Right, and then they just bitch about it out. Like, I didn't like The Voice, but I still went to. They still fucking went to the movie and bought popcorn.
And you empower them to take a movie down and cater to the whim of the mob, like Frankenstein's mob, which I really, really, it scares the shit out of me. I didn't want to get into how big AI scares the shit out of me, because I think I'm going to be out of a job someday.
Yeah, you hope not. Well, that's why now it's
No, it's a certainty.
Yeah,
I absolutely think it's a certainty. I just hope it's not a certainty in my lifetime.
It's the thing is they're calling it now as cobots. You work with the robot, cobots.
And I'm not going to do that. I would rather not make movies ever again than succumb to AI or whatever the hell you're talking about. I just can't do it. It goes against every bit of my being for something that doesn't have a fucking brain to think it's creative and to write a script.
I see the one thing I think is that, of course, yeah, like mechanical, manual, yeah, of course that's going to go, robotic. But when even still people are like, hey, Chat GPT, write me a fucking script. There's still that human element that polishes that comes through in a writer's writing. Right, it's not robotic, and you can kind of.
I think you're over sentimental about this. The you that's not on this podcast is a lot like the you that's out there in the mass audiences. I don't think you would know. I don't think you're going to care eventually. I think it's going to go away, and you're going to sit down on your butt and eat popcorn and sour gummies, and you're going to just entertain me on the screen, please.
Man, I hope not. Oh, that's a dystopian future.
And you know how I know it's going to happen? Because you didn't fight me on any of that. You just went, I hope not.
No,
that's how fucked we are.
No, well, you change what I'm watching, and I would love that world.
No,
I want gummies. I want popcorn.
Someday I'm going to put on an AI movie for you, and then I'm going to put a double feature on a movie that somebody wrote, and you aren't going to know the difference. Number one, and my heart will sink when you say the AI one's better.
Well,
and you specifically, that's going to happen too.
Yeah, I hope not, but I can't predict the future.
If you had any kind of backbone for the industry that you're in, you would say, no, I will always stick up for movies that are real, and that's not going to happen.
That's right. I am a champion of cinema.
That's how simple and weak your mind is, that you can't even say that's not going to happen.
I was saying that the human element, you can't replace the human element.
Well,
a computer is only as much
yes
as you put into it, but it can't. And the soul is
fine. That's what you were saying.
Mystery
but
of the universe.
That's where you started. And then when I presupposed an Earth that exists,
will I get fooled? I hope not. But I'm not gonna. That's why it's just like just be like water, man. Be like water.
Man, the backpedaling.
The meta. I'm being very meta right now.
Yes, this is what I call on camera Andy. Which is the Andy with principles and Andy that thinks he has some shit that doesn't stink. And the off-camera Andy is just sitting down, again, eating and enjoying the free entertainment.
I admitted the shit that doesn't stink, because I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to be...
How could you say maybe? We're moving on. Just moving on. That's... God, there's no even talking to you.
I enjoyed Super Mario Brothers. I still like the live action one better. I think this one, it was good.
I don't know, man. Now thinking about it, I think the new one's better.
Yeah. Well,
the 93 version is really, really rough. It's really rough.
20 years difference, man. It's like, hey, you got to cut it. You get to cut the 93 one a little bit more slack.
It's the 93 one is without the meta, and then the new one is too much meta. So that's why I was saying in the beginning that I don't know which one's better, because they both have their problems. But the new one is so fantastically in the world that I believe exists in my brain of playing the game, that's why you can fall into it and go, oh my God, it's just like I thought it was if it was real.
Right. And
then it kind of disappoints you when it becomes too aware of itself, like it's not real. And that's the meta jokes, just tell you it's not real. And that's not, I don't want to be reminded it's not real. I want to believe it's real.
Right. And they do such a great job with the animation and And like that I was just blown away by that.
I just think the audience they ask for this, or they think the writers, the producers, they think that these meta jokes, they ask for it, and so they give it to the audience, because otherwise they're going to go, "What the fuck was that? Why can't you be aware of the fact that you guys are making a Mario movie? You have to make reference to it all the time."
I think it's because they feel like smart jokes to a lot of people,
and that's the Star Wars syndrome, because that was also my biggest gripe with the new Star Wars. Star Wars isn't funny,
right?
Not the jokes of the new one where you stop and like, here, insert joke here. It's the original Star Wars. They're indirectly funny,
right? It's just because of the circumstances of the character, like whatever the little nuances of the character,
or how badass Han Solo is, and he says lines that are hilarious because you're like, God damn, I love that guy.
Yeah,
but yeah. I think if I'm wrong about what meta is, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm going to take it as. And you were just way off.
I was in the beginning.
You were way off.
I was thinking of something completely different, but now I got it.
It's because you have a small intellect. Moving on.
Today's episode of the Four Seasons of Film podcast is brought to you by Phil's Coffee. Phil's specializes in handcrafted coffee made one cup at a time. Visit a location today or find them on the web at philscoffee.com. That's Phil's with a Z, coffee.com. Find the beans you're looking for.
Moving on. Scream 6. All right.
I'm curious to hear
here's
about this.
Here's your bread and butter kind of movie. It's a horror film that's based off a successful franchise that's in its 6th iteration. And how did you feel about, I guess it's just called Scream, the last one that came out, even though people are referring to it as Scream 5, but it's not Scream 5. It was the reboot of Scream.
Right.
So, and it was a few years ago. And but it definitely, before you say, it definitely was a departure from the mythology and the way they made those movies, and it like reset itself. I hate to say it, it was what I think of as a reboot.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like, hey, we have this known thing, but we're gonna, you're gonna get what some familiarity, but we're gonna try to update it for nowadays.
And for all of its, it meta jokes again. God, the whole thing was meta jokes, and for all of that, I thought it was a fun movie, and I thought it was way better than, I guess, 4. Is it 4?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought Scream,
it is 4. Scream 4.
Scream 4 really kind of was, I've really kind of missed the mark on what the franchise was since the Wes Craven ones. And you can even argue that Scream 3, my God, when you bring back, the third movie, and you bring in who's the killer, and you go, well, it's some long lost, someone related to the original killers, or somebody that was orchestrating the whole thing the whole time. You go, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's like the Saw syndrome.
Yeah.
That's what Saw took it out of that book, 150%.
And Scream from a couple years ago kind of did the same thing, but when I was watching Scream 6, I know all of that, and I know what it's going to be like, but still, I really wanted to see it because I'm kind of a fan of where they've taken the franchise, kind of like the Friday the 13th thing. I used to watch all those movies when I was young, really young, actually too young, and it just was like the same formula reinvented in new ways, and for some reason, as a kid, I just liked it. It felt comforting and shocking. And what are they going to do now, even though it was silly and dumb in a lot of ways? And they've kind of done that with the Scream series, where I'll probably want to see the next one. And I enjoyed this one because we all get the joke at this point that this is a franchise, and we're not going for super serious art here. And there are people that care about this enough to direct it and to write it in a smart way. So it's still keeping up with the Joneses. And what I mean is, with today's audience.
Yeah.
And I think Scream 6 did that. Was I watching it and going, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe they're doing this. This is over the top. Yes, the whole movie I'm yelling at the screen, because I think that's the idea.
Yeah, right. That was the whole thing about the first scene when he goes over the rules and everyone's yelling at the TV. It's like that's the experience they want you to have. It's, don't go up that fucking ladder.
Yeah, and so this is more of the same. I was those spoilers. I was very disappointed in the ending,
the reveal, the kind of the.
Well, that's what the whole movies are all about. Who is it? Who is doing it, and how are they going to do it interesting this time? And and I will say that after Scream 3, they've never had a reveal where you're like, oh man, that's awesome. You go, oh. Who gives a fuck?
I forgot about the reveal for the Scream 5 or whatever until you were watching it the other day. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember how that. And I remember being disappointed by that, too.
There is no Scream 5, by the way.
Scream from 2022.
Thank you.
But you know what?
Asshole.
Yeah, but you just said people call it 5.
No, I don't call it 5.
Well, that's okay. Well,
I'm saying people of a lesser intellect.
Wow.
But yes, Ghostface is back, and this time he's in New York. And you know where I think they missed a huge opportunity?
Where?
There's Jason Takes Manhattan, okay?
Yeah.
Now, that movie was hilarious because it was a Manhattan it was a New York that was the old New York where it was gritty, grimy, taxi driver, scary. People were fucking creepy, and they were going to beat the shit out of you everywhere. And that's what I thought I was going to get with Scream 6. They missed a huge opportunity where a guy in a costume is walking around New York City and killing people. And I kept going, oh, this is going to be great because New Yorkers are going to go, I don't give a fuck, get out of here. And they would beat the shit out of Ghostface. And there'd be way more New Yorker, like tough guy New Yorker shit. I don't think New York City would put up with this.
Yeah.
And they did it in one scene only where they go into a bodega to ask for help because Ghostface is chasing them, and there are a couple guys in there that are like, hey, what's that fucking knife doing? And like they go after him and shit. But that was it. And I just thought the whole movie was going to be an in-joke about New Yorkers not putting up with even Ghostface, like Jason wasn't. It was like, hey, I'm Jason. They're like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case in this at all.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that disappointed me. I just thought that was such bullshit. You're going to New York City.
Right. Up the stakes a little bit. Come on.
But the argument could be made, like our friend Jay, who's, famously, he's from Long Island. He grew up in New York. That New York City that I'm talking about from the 80s and the pre-Giuliani years, it doesn't exist anymore. So maybe those tough guy people aren't around anymore. So that's why.
Yeah.
It's all like,
that could be it.
Hipsters and shit like that, apparently. But I still think it would have been hilarious. I think you'd really like this movie just for the yell at the screen factor. It really, there's sequences that are ridiculous. And, at the same time, it's a really fun movie if you just kind of remove your brain.
Right.
Like, don't think, just watch the movie.
Yeah, go along for the ride.
And is it better than the last one? I think it's more exciting than the last one, and I think it pushes the franchise forward. And if you're looking for like a no-thinker horror film that's in its 6th movie, you're probably going to enjoy this. And I just love the mythology of the character. And I like a good whodunit, even if the whodunit disappoints me at the end.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I agree with you on that. I love whodunit. So.
But again, the theme of this, we're going to call this the meta joke episode. The meta jokes suck. They just do. There's literally a character that dies in this, and they're on the verge of death in the last gasp, and they say, "Oh, fuck this franchise."
Get the fuck
you know what I mean?
here.
Like this, we're going just a little bit too on the nose here with shit like that.
Yeah, that's
when people are getting stabbed and they're bleeding out and they're on the verge of death. Come on, guys. Let's at least pretend like we're taking this seriously enough to let a character die in peace.
2 days to retirement.
Yeah, exactly. That's some shit that wouldn't get past. Yeah, like 1993 fucking movies.
Right.
Like, come on, just try a little bit harder there. But that's the meta. It's all about the meta, man. I really thought Jasmine Savoy Brown was excellent in this. And Skeet Ulrich actually was really good in this one. And I didn't really,
Oh yeah.
he didn't really add much to the last one. I was like, hey, he doesn't look the same. But I thought weirdly his flashbacks in this were really good. And then who was the brother in this? Mason Gooding. He is a damn good young actor, and I really, really like his performance in this. I think he was in Booksmart too.
Okay.
You'd recognize him if you saw him, but he's really good in this. As teenagers or quasi-teenagers or whatever, there's some really good young talent in the movie, and I liked it. I'm going record. I said I'm going to say I really liked it.
Oh, that's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s kid.
I did read that.
Oh, okay.
Evo. And the kid from Grand Budapest Hotel is in the beginning.
Pest.
Thanks.
I'm just making sure. We got to keep each other on top game.
Anywho, Scream 6 is a lot of fun, and for a horror film like Andy, I would give a recommendation to you. If you're not a horror fan and you haven't really been following this series, I would say it's going to be the same. It's not breaking any new ground for people that aren't fans.
Right. Okay.
But if you are fans, I think, it's just going to keep going up from here. And meta jokes aside, kind of keeps the movie honest.
Okay. All right. You know me. I'll eventually get to it and watch it. No hard sale there.
That's what's so disappointing. You can't watch Goodfellas, but you can watch this movie.
What do you mean? I can always watch Goodfellas.
Well, you might have watched it, but you've never seen it.
Oh, dude, I have. That's one I can argue with.
No, seen, not watched. All right. Anyway, so there's one more movie that's new that I could talk about, unless you have something else.
That's all the new movies, man. Mario Brothers and Ghosted.
I watched Sharper this week.
Now that I've seen the poster for it a lot, so I am curious to see how this was.
Poster looks just like the Knives Out poster.
It does. That's why is it a whodunit?
It's a weird movie. Let me tell you. Okay, directed by Benjamin Caron. I'm wondering if that's Leslie Caron, somebody related to Leslie Caron. Will you look that up while I'm talking?
Yes.
It's about a group of people who are all kind of grifters and con artists. If you don't know what grifters mean,
I know what grifters mean. All right, I was a magician. That is the ultimate grifter.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's illusion.
A grifter and a magician are not the same thing.
You make the illusion.
Yeah, you can't
reality.
even get the bullshit off your tongue
The
enough to
illusion
brush
of
your
reality,
teeth.
yeah.
Anyway, it's about a bunch of grifters that are in Manhattan, and they're kind of all in cahoots with each other, but they don't know it. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of cons that are at stake, and it's told in a chapter kind of way where each character gets a chapter, and you learn more about what's going on through the backstory of each chapter along the way.
Okay. All right.
It's on Apple TV, so you can see it there. You can stream it there. I thought it was a bit convoluted and a bit confusing and underwhelming at the same time. But what I really loved about the movie was the cinematography. Number one thing I was watching going, well, I'm definitely going to finish this because I really love the cinematography of this movie.
Okay.
So that's interesting because you don't really say that much, even for me, which is, if I know who the cinematographer is, then you go, oh my God, this is Roger Deakins' movie. I'm definitely seeing this, and I can tell the whole time that it's him. But this movie was shot by Charlotte Bruce Christensen, who also shot Girl on the Train, I know you've seen, Fences, Denzel's movie, and A Quiet Place. And all those movies are shot unbelievably. Like, you can, whatever you want to say about those movies, in your opinion, whether you like them or not, I don't care. They have a specific look to them, and this person is an amazing cinematographer, and I immediately am going to track her work from here on out because I really think she has the goods in that beautiful old school way, and even rivals somebody's look like a Deakins, where it's so distinctive now that I think I'd be able to tell her lighting style and her panning style and her lens choices and such.
Okay, very cool.
I know that's boring the shit out of you because I'm talking about the cinematography first in this movie.
The film medium is a visual medium. It's very important.
Thank you for mansplaining what cinematography is to me.
I figured I should, as being the cinematography expert on this podcast.
The acting in the movie was really excellent, especially by Justy Smith and Brianna Middleton. They were my favorite parts about the movie. Jonathan Lithgow and Julianne Moore and Sebastian Stan. They're kind of like there as exactly who you think there are in every movie. Mm-hmm. You know, unless John Lithgow's putting on like the Winston Churchill makeup and stuff like that.
Right.
And Julianne Moore has definitely, had way more complex roles than this. And Sebastian Stan, I might say that I as schlocky and shticky as Pam and Tommy Lee was the miniseries, I kind of enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like it. He's a good actor.
I thought he was really good as Tommy Lee. I thought he was really good as Tommy Lee.
Right, I did too, man. I have a soft spot for that. As I don't know, and trashy's not the right word, but it's kind of like,
yeah, it's okay. It's kind of trashy. It's a trashy miniseries.
Trashy like TV miniseries. I was like, damn, all right, they got some fucking powerhouses.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it every week, trying to finish it, and Lily James was awesome as Pamela Anderson. So, that movie it was ridiculous, but that was the point.
Right.
I think that was the point.
I hope so.
So, but, what I wish Sebastian Stan would do more is like characters like that instead of playing just a character like his Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Where he shows up and he is the coolest guy in the world, and he knows how to handle himself and he's just suave and debonair and everything. I think he's a better character actor than he is a, quote, normal actor because, there's something about him. He is just so magnetic as a character when he's just a normal guy with some problems or, whatever, like in this movie. I don't want to see him as Cary Grant. I want to see him as Tommy Lee. I want to see him fully engrossed in a role where he goes method in the role and you go, God damn, that guy, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
And now I think that was the problem in this movie, which he's just too normal. And, it wasn't like he was jumping out of the screen and really nothing really jumped out of the screen here. It was kind of a whodunit where by the end of it, I went like, yeah, that's what I figured was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a movie about grifters. So what do you think happens? Everybody's grifting each other all the time. What do you think happens?
Yeah, the ultimate double, triple, quadruple cross.
Yeah, it's like everything keeps getting double, triple, quadruple crossed so many times. Before the ending happens, you go like, well, dude, you can't do this the whole movie.
Yeah.
You got to trust somebody. Because then by the end, you're going like, oh, really? It was that one? Oh. Because but it's like water torture. You're literally going, I have been smacked in the ass so many times by thinking I know what's going on in this movie that by the end I'm tired of getting smacked.
Yeah, I get that.
But it's an interesting watch for the kind of whodunit that it is, and I always like a good movie about grifting. You probably never seen The Grifters.
I don't think so.
I think
maybe I have. Hold on, let me. Who's in that?
John Cusack, Angelica Houston, and Annette Bening from 1990. Stephen Frears directed it, who is a fantastic director, and of course you know him from
a bunch of his work. It's just the copious amounts of.
As he Googles. Google.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to look up The Grifters. I think I've seen this. Yeah, looking at the pictures.
See that is just disturbing to me that I think I've seen this. I just hate the way you say things like that. It really offends my heart.
Well,
I think I've seen this. Don't care enough about to even think about it.
No, I am. Wait a minute. Hold on.
But anyway,
I haven't. I haven't seen this. I have not.
Okay, you can just shut up now.
Different movie.
I think you'd like, this is my recommendation for the week, The Grifters from 1990, because you fancy yourself a grifter even though you were a terrible musician when you were 12. Which is not the same thing, but it is about a bunch of people.
Terrible musician? You mean magician? I'm not. Well, what both, I guess.
You know what? It both stands. But it is about a bunch of con people, and they're actually like street grifts, which I really, really thought was interesting. Like how you get money off like somebody that runs a bodega, or like street games and shit like that, where you really con people out of money in like this really organic way where you go, holy shit, that guy just grifted me.
Right.
I mean, that it's so interesting. And I actually have been the victim of grifting before.
I mean, if I was, I don't know. They did a good job.
No, I mean, I remember this guy, he asked for change when I was bartending at a place, and he did this weird move with all these bills that confused me, and he walked away, and I realized I just gave that guy $300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was totally grifted. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm totally going to get in trouble for this, but mad respect on that guy for doing that to me because he totally fucked me up.
Right. Yeah. It's like, all right, you did the hustle.
Yeah, I mean, he totally hustled me. And watch The Grifters because I think it'll teach you some stuff where you'll go like, wow, holy shit. And in that weird way where like sleight of hand does work and it's kind of related to being a magician, it's not the same thing.
No, it's not. There's just money in
I love how malleable you are. You just bend wherever my voice goes.
Oh yeah, well,
magicians and grifting is the same thing. No, I know it's not the same thing.
Well, one you're stealing money, the other one you're getting paid to do it, right? There's the distinction. There's the hard line in the.
That is not even comparable. I don't even know where to begin on how stupid that statement is.
What do you mean? I've made,
getting paid to do it.
Yeah, magic, man.
What percentage of magicians do you think get paid to do it?
I've gotten paid to do it.
I didn't ask you.
What percentage?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's less than 1% of all magicians get paid to be magicians.
Well, I mean, there's hobbyists. They're not going to be going out.
And that's also condescending. So why don't you keep talking to the magicians that hate you now?
I will never tell any of the secrets.
That's like saying screenwriters and actors that don't get paid aren't actually screenwriters and actors.
You're
a garbage person.
Hobbyist and magician in magic is like, hey, I know a card trick or two.
You're a garbage person.
You're not a magician, but you have a hobby.
And that's the problem. So yeah, The Grifters is my recommendation for you for this week.
I will check it out.
And also, I would think that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you would enjoy Sharper. I would watch The Grifters first, and if you want to keep going with great grifting movies, I might watch Matchstick Men, great Ridley Scott movie after that, and kind of work your way up to Sharper if you're in the grifting movie mood and you want to watch something new.
I'm trying to think of the movie. It's like they're standing outside of like a hotel room. They just did a grift. And is it Hard 8? Did we do that in Hard 8? Because I don't know, but I felt like it was an older movie than that.
In the beginning with John C. Reilly and Philip Baker Hall, they're like discussing how they get the casino points and the rooms and shit like that.
This was in like New York City or a city. They're standing outside the front.
Well, David Mamet has a bunch of movies like that. House of Games and
That's
Spanish
what it
Prisoner.
Was. That House of Games.
Yeah, I mean that's like the ultimate grifter movies. The House of Games is probably right on the top of it. That's an unbelievable movie. I would say watch The Spanish Prisoner too with Steve Martin because that's a great grifter movie also by David Mamet. Right up your alley, even though you've offended half the audience, especially the artists on the podcast.
No, I didn't.
I'm telling you have. You're never going to realize it until you get tarred and feathered in a public square. And after I lead the charge to do that, I'm going to be happier.
Now it's a smear campaign. It's just a fucking smear campaign.
It's not hard when you just have to listen to the words that come out of your mouth.
yeah, that ain't so bad. I guess.
All right, I didn't really see anything else this week that I want to discuss with you. I like how I leaned into the word "you" because I could have just said that I want to discuss with you, but I definitely don't want to discuss anything with you.
Yeah, you make dumb decisions sometimes. I don't know.
And I would tell you about a movie called My Best Fiend, a documentary about Klaus Kinski by one of my favorite heroes of filmmaking, Werner Herzog. But I will not go into it, even though I think you'd really enjoy the movie. But no, you're not worthy. So I will bid you adieu and ask, before we go, if you had seen anything that you'd like to talk to me. Hoping the answer is no.
No. You'll just ruin it. Stole
my line. The bastard. Name that movie.
Oh. Fuck, what is it?
I don't think he says the bastard. He says son of a bitch. Stole my line.
I can't.
Come on.
I can picture it in my face. Could picture the scene.
Good Will Hunting.
That's right.
All right. Anyway, thank you, Andy. This has been another delightful edition from my microphone and a frustrating affair with the intellectual capacity.
Well, maybe next week I'll ghost you. I learned it from the movie I watched this week.
I just listened to a podcast where that's how they talk in their intros and outros, where they use the movie's title or the character of somebody they're bringing on in like this clever punny way. And I unsubscribed immediately, and I never want to listen to that podcast ever again. So if you start doing that here,
no, that wasn't a pun. It was just a statement.
To quote another movie, you're fucking fired, Bob.
Well, I won't. I'll keep the puns to a minimum.
Name the movie.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know your. This is my favorite game ever. We'll do that for an episode. We literally just have quotes, and you're gonna go. I don't know.
Fireball.
There you go.
What is it?
I know. Yeah.
What is it?
Capacity for retainable knowledge.
Just because I put so much new movies in that they get
Oh, as we've learned this week, you watched one. Yeah, you're for sure.
2.
Yeah,
You got 3.
And also, I don't lose knowledge just because I put 3 movies in my head.
Yeah. Well, debatable.
How?
Name that movie.
Erroneous. Erroneous. You're a petulant child. You don't even have. This was like arguing with a 2-year-old.
I
We should have got out of this episode like 5 minutes ago. But this is how angry you get me. You know how to piss me off with your stupidity.
Hey,
Keep film fucking alive.
No, all heroes wear capes.